How much would someone have to pay you to stay in a life you don't want for another 10 years? Because that's not a hypothetical. That's your current salary. That's the deal you already took. You traded your freedom for a number, and the number felt reasonable at the time. But reasonable and free are not the same thing. They never were. And that quiet trade, the one you made so gradually you didn't notice it happening, is the reason you can be controlled. Not by force, not by violence, by money, the softest leash ever designed. And most people never feel it tightening because it feels like progress. Nietzsche saw this over 100 years ago. He watched an entire civilization sell its freedom in exchange for comfort and call it ambition. And what he understood about it should disturb anyone who's currently chasing a paycheck more than they're chasing a life. Nietzsche had a phrase for most of modern society. He called them the herd. Not as an insult, as a diagnosis. The herd doesn't think for itself. It follows whatever the group rewards. And in our world, the group rewards money. So everyone chases money. Not because they sat down and decided it was what mattered most to them, but because everyone around them was chasing it, and the cost of stopping felt like death. Nietzsche wrote that the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. And money is how the tribe keeps you in line now. Not through shame or exile, through dependency. You build a lifestyle. The lifestyle requires income. The income requires obedience. The obedience requires silence. And the silence requires you to slowly forget what you actually think, want, and believe. That's not a career. That's a cage with direct deposit. And here's what Nietzsche understood that most people still don't. The cage doesn't feel like a cage. It feels like responsibility. It feels like being a grown-up. It feels like doing what you're supposed to do. That's what makes it so dangerous. A prison you can see, you can plan to escape. A prison that feels like a promotion. You'll furnish it yourself and defend it to anyone who questions it. Nietzsche described a concept he called the will to power. Most people misread it as a desire to dominate others. It's not. The will to power, at its core, is the drive to become what you actually are. To grow into the fullest, most honest, most uncompromised version of yourself. It's not about controlling people. It's about refusing to be controlled. And money chasing is the direct opposite of that. Every time you take the safe option because it pays better, you move further from yourself. Every time you stay quiet because honesty is expensive, you shrink. Every time you choose a path because it looks successful, instead of because it feels true, you betray the will to power. Not the power over others, the power over your own life. Nietzsche watched people do this constantly. He described what he called the last man, his vision of a human being who has given up on greatness in exchange for comfort. The last man doesn't create, doesn't risk, doesn't stand for anything that might cost him. He optimizes, he manages, he survives, and he calls it living. The last man has a nice apartment and a retirement plan, and absolutely nothing inside him that's actually his. So what does it actually look like to stop chasing money? It doesn't mean becoming broke. Nietzsche wasn't a monk. He didn't preach poverty as a virtue. What he preached was hierarchy of values, knowing what matters most to you and refusing to sell it for what matters less. Money is a tool, that's it. The moment it becomes the goal, you've inverted the hierarchy. You've put the tool above the thing the tool was supposed to serve. And now the tool runs you. Think about what you actually value, not what you're supposed to value. What actually makes you feel like yourself. Maybe it's creating something. Maybe it's freedom over your time. Maybe it's saying exactly what you think without filtering it through what's profitable. Now look at how you spend your days. Is your life organized around those things? Or is it organized around money, with those things squeezed into whatever space is left over? If it's the second one, then you're not using money. Money is using you, and everyone around you can feel it. There's a quality to a person who can't be bought. You felt it before. Someone who says what they actually think regardless of who's in the room. Someone who walks away from situations that pay well but cost too much in ways that don't show up on a bank statement. There's a weight to that person, a stillness. You trust them without fully knowing why. Now think about the opposite. The person who adjusts what they say based on who's paying. Who laughs at things that aren't funny because the room expects it. Who has opinions at home and agreements at work. You felt that too. And you don't trust it. Nobody does. The difference between those two people isn't money. It's what they're willing to do for it. One of them has a price. The other one doesn't. And you can feel which is which in about 30 seconds. Nietzsche wrote about what he called Amor Fati, love of fate, the willingness to embrace your life exactly as it is, including the hard parts, especially the hard parts, the discomfort of walking away from money you don't respect, the uncertainty of building something that doesn't pay yet, the loneliness of making choices that nobody around you understands. That discomfort isn't a warning sign. It's the price of admission. The person who can sit with that, who can feel the pull of easy money and choose the harder path anyway, that person becomes untouchable. Not because they don't feel the pressure, because they've decided there's something they won't sell. And when a person has something they won't sell, there is no lever in the world long enough to move them. Nietzsche called this becoming who you are. Not who your salary says you are. Not who your job title says you are. Not who your lifestyle requires you to pretend to be. Who you actually are when nothing is for sale. Nietzsche wrote that whoever has a why can bear almost any how. But the reverse is also true. Whoever has no why will chase any how, any paycheck, any opportunity, any offer that feels like forward motion, even if it's motion away from everything that matters. The people you think of as untouchable didn't get there by earning more. They got there by needing less. Not less money, less approval, less permission, less of the feeling that they're only worth what someone's willing to pay them. So ask yourself again, how much would someone have to pay you to stay in a life you don't want for another 10 years? Now ask the harder question, why are you still accepting the offer?